welcome everyone to our Wave 2 2024 Highlights webinar. On the agenda today, these are the features I thought I would showcase to you. From the finance side, it's using a default quantity of 1 for general ledger accounts on documents. And in this release, there is a new subscription billing module that Microsoft have released. So I'm going to give you a quick overview on that module. Then we're going to look at projects and services. Remember, projects is what was originally called jobs. This is where all about they've released or enabled the feature now where we can raise purchase orders inside a project. And then they've just made some options easier to use within the service and projects module. So we'll cover that off. I mean, on the personalization and environment side, it's all about resizing columns, dragging and dropping multiple of files. And then I wanted to mention the environment updates, that we've got a bit more flexibility as to how you can do your environment updates. And lastly, we're going to look at the embedded Power BI reports out the box. Now, please note that my screenshots and the sections that I will be demonstrating today is on the Cronus AU demo company, and everything I'm showing you is standard Business Central out the box, no customizations at all. Also, just a reminder to you that you have access to these new features and potential new releases by using the help function on your Business Central screen or via the Microsoft Release Planner. So there are many more new releases or new features that you may want to explore yourselves. So let's get going with the finance side of it. So the first one here is the option to use a default quantity of 1 on the general ledger transactions. So when you're using your sales and your purchase transactions, and some people will enter codes, item codes, other people will use general ledger accounts. And you've always had to, when you've used the general ledger accounts, always enter a quantity of 1, which was quite frustrating, seeing the majority of the time it would always be 1 anyway. Anyway, you can set that now as a default. So to do that, we go to the sales and receivables or purchase and payable setup option, and you'll notice there's a new option here called default GL account quantity. So as soon as you turn that on, it's always going to set everything to 1. So here's an example of a sales order, and I've put in the item. So I put in 1001, that was fine. But if I put in the GL account and I put in 6225, when I tabbed out that field in the past, the quantity field was always blank. By having that button turned on, when I tab out a 6225, the quantity now will default to 1. So that's a nice, easy win for us. The next one is the subscription billing module that's just been released. So it's just come out. They've released videos on it, and it's now in your help section. But I thought today I would just give you an overview of what that is going to offer you. So it starts with customer contracts, and this is all about this recurring billing for items and services that you're going to be offering to your customers. So those items and services, they call them service commitments. And this is where you specify what you're actually going to be billing your customers for. Could be tickets, any type of usage. And when I'm talking usage here, it could be things like meter reading or how many hours you spent providing support, things along those lines. Or it could just be a service that you provide on a recurring basis, such as maintenance. So part of that is you've got your contracts, you've got your service commitments. Next is the billing schedules as well. How often are we going to be billing for these recurring services? And this is where when you set up the billing schedule, you're giving it the term of the billing. So in this case, well, it's going to last for 12 months. So I'm going to be invoicing someone for maintenance for 12 months. Could be billing them every 3 months, or it could be billing them once a year, or could be billing them every month. And again, more importantly, it also says, well, before that contract comes to an end, we want to renew and notify our customers. So what will that period be? So in this case, 3 months before the contract expires, it will let you know you need to go and renew that contract with your customer. As I said, they do usage bases. This is where we import usage. So it comes through in a CSV file. So you would go and get this data from another system, possibly. Maybe it's meter readings. If you go down to your Officeworks, obviously, if you are charging that out, it's the number of photocopies that have been made or number of tickets that you've used on your support desk, anything along those lines. So you will import that usage, and then you can start that billing process. They also have deferrals. Now, with Standard Business Central, obviously, if you use the deferral codes, as you know, when you post it, it will also post those forward transactions as well. Like if you're going to take that amount and split it over 12 months, it will actually do that journal and post it. In this case, on the subscription billing module, you can choose when you actually want to release those deferrals. And then you can select, say, right, release the next 3 into my income statement. Otherwise, it just stays there on the balance sheet side. It will also allow you to update any pricing and renewals. And then on the reporting side, at the moment, they've just got the analysis mode and the list page, but they have said that they are going to release more reporting in the future releases. So in this case, they have mentioned they're going to do some Excel reporting and Power BI. And they've said that comes in version 25.2. So Wave 2 2024 is actually version 25. And then all your incremental minor updates are 0.1.2. So we're estimating that all this reporting will most probably come out in December this year or January next year. So let's have a look at some of those screens. So in this case, I set up a hardware item. Just a normal item that I sell. I'm selling a piece of hardware. But attached to that, there will be, as you can see here on the screen, service commitments. And this is where, well, what am I providing as a service that I'm going to be billing regularly? So in this case, I'm going to do the maintenance myself, or I could actually pass it to an external vendor. But when I do it internally, what I have got here is I've got the contract, I've got a separate item. So in this case, you can see this is 1001, which is the hardware item, but the 1000 is actually the maintenance that I'm providing as a service. Now that maintenance, you can have different base calculations. So I'm saying, well, I'm basing mine on my item price. In this case, it's 20%. It's going to be for 12 months. I'm going to be billing every 12 months, or I could be billing every month. And then what happens is once you've set up the service commitment, and you can have different options here as well. So it's not just limited to one line. You can have different options. When you actually raise this on a service order, so in this case, when I've actually put in my hardware that I'm actually selling, it will say, well, what service commitments are you offering, if any? You don't have to choose any, but in this case, I'm going to say, well, I'm offering to my customer the maintenance. In this case, it was 20%. As you can see, I've got my billing period of 12 months. I'm going to bill, it's a 12-month contract. I'm going to bill them every 12 months. My initial term is 12 months, but I may have a subsequent term where I may want to go 24 months or just 6 months. And again, there's my notice period. So that will pop up on the sales order, but just in this case, what it does is it creates that service commitment in the background, and then you attach that to a contract. But on this particular sales order, I'm just going ahead and I'm invoicing just for that piece of hardware. In order to kick in with the recurring billing and the subscription billing, we would then run what we call the recurring billing. But to do that, we need to look at the contract first. So here's our customer contract, and these are all the different commitments that that customer would have with you. So you can see the one that I've got there is the hardware item, it's maintenance. It's just one, there's the $200. So remember, I was selling my piece of hardware for $1,000, so it's worked out the 20% automatically for me. So again, if I did have a price increase, I don't have to go in and change all my contracts. It will do it because I've used the calculation base of 20%, so it knows it's going to be 200. So once all this has been set up, I then would run my recurring billing. And this is what an invoice would look like for that recurring billing. So again, pretty standard, but it does have that comment in there. So this is the contract. It tells me the service that I'm actually charging them for. There's a 200. It tells them its maintenance, and it also tells them that the period that this will actually cover for. So that then goes out to your customer, and in the background, it has created all those referrals. So it's taken the 200, and because this is for 12 months, it knows it's going to be $16.67 every month. Now, using standard Business Central deferrals, those would be raised and go through to the income statement. But with this particular module, and this is just looking at the analysis view, remember the analysis view, that icon up there? This is, and again, this is what they say at the moment from a reporting point of view. It's basically this and the main list page that they have provided, but there will be more coming. So in this case, I've already said, well, of those referrals that have been banked on the balance sheet side, go and release. And I've actually released 7 months to date. So I can see I've released from April through to October. And that's all sitting in my income side. And these referrals I have not released yet. So they're still sitting on the balance sheet side. So you'll be able to have a look at this and just see the totals that you'll have, what's been released, what hasn't been released per contract. And again, because this is on the analysis page, you can set up your different views. So that's the subscription module that's come out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Microsoft are going to do with this particular module in the future. Obviously, because it's new, they're going to put quite a bit of emphasis on this moving forward. So the next one is projects. Remember, this is jobs that they've rebranded. So we can now finally purchase items for a project without actually leaving the project. In the past, you'd had to go off, come out of your project, go and open up the purchase order and attach that to the actual project. Well, we can do this all within the project now. So you can see here, I've gone to my project planning lines. And the actual function now is here, actions, functions, create purchase order. That's where they've got the functionality hidden. But again, don't forget, you can actually personalize your screen and move this function to somewhere else onto another menu just to make it more accessible, a more convenient spot for you. So what it will do is when you click on create purchase order, it has all the items behind the scenes, and anything that is a purchasable item and you don't have enough stock, it will actually appear in here. As you can see up here, it's not actually showing at the moment, but yeah, it will actually show you that you actually haven't got the stock in your system in inventory. And again, if you are purchasing for projects, you most probably won't have those items in stock. So all the items that aren't sitting in stock will appear on this actual list. So in this case, you can see I've got a project quantity of 20. I've obviously got one in stock because it's telling me I only need to buy 19. So there is one sitting there. But what's really great is if you've got a large project, and let's just say you needed to purchase 100 for this particular project, you could actually just come in here and say, well, I only want to buy 20 now. Set that to 20 and it will go and create the purchase order for you. You can come back in at a later stage and purchase the remainder when you actually need the items. You would just come back in, create purchase orders, and the balance would be sitting here for you. And then obviously once I click OK, it would actually go off, create the purchase order and link it to the project all for me. So all that work is actually done and I'm doing it within the project without having to go off to the main menu to go and do all of that. And then what will also happen is you can see within the project as well, there's another option there for purchase lines. And this will now show you everything that has been purchased for that particular project, what the quantity was. And obviously, when it gets received, it will show you the outstanding quantity as it gets received and what's remaining to be delivered by your supplier. And again, I think this has been a long-awaited feature by most of us because it was a bit frustrating having to go out and do this. So I'm glad to see that they finally put this in there. When it comes to usability for projects, I think what they're trying to do is just make things a little bit more accessible and are not hidden down in some of the menus. They've moved the Create Project Sales Invoice onto the project card itself under Actions and Functions. And then on the project list page, so if you go in and search for projects, it brings up a list of all your projects. So that's your project list page. Within there, you've now got access to all of these from that top menu. You don't actually have to go into the project to actually access any of these options. It's actually there on that project list page. And I think the one that I quite like is this new one that they've released, the Project Work in Progress Cockpit. So literally on that listing, there's my listing of my projects. I just go to Work in Progress, click on Work in Progress Cockpit, and what you'll get is this particular screen. So it lists all your projects down the side here. And obviously, if you've done anything on that project, you've actually incurred costs and you've actually run your calculate work in progress, you can see all the work in progress calculations that have been generated so far. And it also does give you that full drill down into the individual transactions so you can see those. And then at the bottom as well, as you highlight each project, so while it's showing me my work in progress costs, it's also giving me how that fits into the overall project budget. So here we can see the cost, the price, and the actual usage. So I think that's a very welcome screen, and I know it's something that I've certainly been looking forward to as well. On the next one, we have the improved usability for the service module. On the service items page, so when we had a list of all the service items that we had out in the environment, it just gave us the customer number. So if you were looking at it, it might show you C2000. Who is that? So at least now they've gone and added in the customer name, so at least you can see very clearly who those service items belong to. Your reference was another field that a lot of people wanted to search by. It wasn't on that page, and they've now included on these pages. So again, it's just making your searching and looking for a particular service items or service orders or quotes a lot easier just by using that your reference field. I think something as well that's also nice to see. Again, these are just really small things, but it's just going to make it so much easier for you to use, and you don't have to go off to separate areas looking for information. It's all going to be there for you. The next one was the make order. So in the past, if you would take a service quote and turn it into a service order, once it'd be done, that was it. You'd have to go back to the main dashboard, go and look for the service order, and then open it. So at least you can see now they have changed it that once you've converted it, you now have the option to open the order and then obviously process that order further. Again, just a small one, but I think it's going to change a few people's lives so they don't have to, as you say, go back to that main menu again. And again, for the service item worksheet, you can now have that printed off. And if you are going to hand that out to any of the technicians to go on site, at least you can now print that option out, and they've got a full listing of things that they need to take out there, and obviously the time that they're going to spend. Moving to personalization. Well, this was one when I saw this new feature, I thought to myself about resizing columns. Hang on, I can actually do that now. Well, there was a bit of a twist to it. So while we can resize our columns, we can now actually do it on each device independently. So again, I can resize my columns on my laptop and it will stay there. If I then move to my tablet or my phone, I can resize columns, and those individual settings will remain with that actual device. So they're actually stored in that browser or in the app memory. Now, the reason why I said there was a bit of a twist is you can now resize irrespective of whether you've got the personalization feature enabled. So for me, I haven't noticed any difference because I always had personalization enabled for myself. But in some organizations, the personalization is not enabled. Basically, they're saying, well, guys, that's your screen. There it is. You can't change it in any shape or form. And I suppose it was a bit frustrating that they couldn't go and resize some of their columns. Now you can. So even if you don't have that personalization, you can still resize columns. So I think that is a really nice feature that they have turned on. And again, they've now done it on any page, including our Copilot screen. So that's a good one because I know in the Copilot I couldn't resize, and I'm going, oh, I wish we could do this. Well, now we can. So that's a nice one just to know. So yes, some of you have always been able to do it, but some of you haven't. Now everyone will be able to do that. The next one is this drag and drop functionality. I know they've been mentioning it for a while. It's finally here. But what I wanted to point out is on your fact box on the side there, we had the usual attachments, and we used to click on the 0 or the 1 or whatever figure was there. We would click into there, it would open up this particular document, and obviously we would click into the field and we would add the files that we wanted to. And yes, we used to add them one at a time. Well, they're actually going to deprecate that whole area, but you don't have to panic. They've opened up this new section here called Documents. And at the moment you're going, oh, am I going to have to move everything from there into this area? The answer is no. So don't worry, you won't lose your attachments. They will just show up under this new Documents area. So it might be advisable for you to actually personalize your screens and actually just remove this section here, because this is the one that they're going to use moving forward. Just to give you an idea, as I said, you can now drag and drop multiple files. You can even drag and drop folders, and I'm actually going to show you that today. But just very quickly, so when you're using the new Documents section, you have got a whole lot more options in there. Show details, upload files, open in OneDrive. You can share files from here, you can download them. If you've got the capability, you can also open them up in Excel. Now, the other area that while we can do all of this in document attachments, if anyone is using the incoming document feature, you can do it in there as well. And also don't forget on the email editor. So at this point, I thought I would just show you what it looks like in Business Central. So here I've got my customer listing. So here's Adatum Corporation. For me, I'm just going to quickly swap over to attachments. So yes, I'm most probably going to go and hide this section, but as I said to you, everything that's in there is now appearing on here. So you don't have to worry about moving anything. So in this case, I'm going to just click, I want to upload some files, so I can drag and drop. So here I have a whole lot of, I've actually got a folder here called images. In that folder, I've actually got 3 images, and I actually want to drag and drop everything. Again, I could drag and drop these individually if I wanted to, but in this case, I'm just going to go images and drop that into there. So it's done that. And what you'll now notice, it's actually brought them through. So everything that's in that folder has been brought through as an individual file. And obviously from there, you can actually, as I mentioned before, you can click on one of these and you can actually go into there and open in OneDrive. You can share that particular image or document of whichever you need to do, and send that out to whoever you need to. Now, the other area was also when you're sending emails, you may actually want to attach some of these documents or images as you send out that email. So again, if you have got, or if you are using the document sending profile and you're using email as an option, let's go and have a look what will happen. So in this case, I've created an invoice here. I'm just using my queue to get to it. Now, if I actually open up my invoice, I now want to post that and send a copy out to my customer because I'm using the document sending profile with emails. And I think I've also said, make it with prompts. So you can either email with no prompts, but if you do want to send attachments, I recommend you do it with prompts. So in this case, I can go post and send documents to. Yes, I'm sending it via email with a PDF. And this is where it says dialogues will appear because I send my options required user input. That's where I said with prompts. So I just go, yes, it's obviously going to post this whole invoice for me. It's going to open up the email screen, and that's where I can now choose to actually send extra documents. So here's my email that will go out. I've obviously got my message in there. And if I scroll further down, you can see I've attached a copy of my invoice. But more importantly, I can now go and add files. Same principle as before. I can go and drag a particular folder in there or individual files. Or if I want to actually pick something up from my customer record, in this case, I can just go add from the source file, and then I can choose which ones I want to. So in this case, I may say I want to select a few more. So I'm going to select all of them, and it will add those in. As you can see, it has the attachments. And then I can close that off or basically send the email, and it will actually send that out with all those attachments. So that's really useful, and I think it's something we've all been waiting for, because I know in past webinars I've been asked that question, can we do multiple files? Yes, we can, and we can also do folders at the same time. So the next one is just around the environment side. Now, yep, there it is. So when we do environment updates, they've now given us a little bit more flexibility. Your major updates, and I think for those of you who attended our customer day, you would have heard Floyd mention this new change. So basically, you've got 5 months before you actually need to upgrade. So for the release now in October, you've got, I think it's through to the end of February before you have to do your major upgrade. So they're giving you a 5 months extension to do it. So that gives you plenty of time to do any testing to make sure everything is working. And if you have any extensions, and when I'm talking about extensions, I'm here talking about where you may have actually had some development done, to actually get those extensions updated and make sure they're all working. They have said in here there is a shortened grace period. So again, at the end of that 5 months, you've got another month before the next update will come through, or next wave release will come through. So in this case, during the month of March, during that grace period, it's just 1 month. It will keep warning you. You've got to update, and if your extension doesn't work, it's going to tell you extension is not compatible. If you don't do anything, it will force that upgrade through, and it will uninstall the extension. But don't worry, you won't lose your data. It will still be there. It's just the extension gets disabled, and then the upgrade will automatically go through. But remember, you have got 5 months, so you've got plenty of time to do that testing and get any extensions updated. And remember, you have got your sandboxes as well to do all that testing. So you've got plenty of resources there. Minor updates. So remember, I talked about things get released and minor updates. So in those minor updates, there are new functionality releases. As you saw on the subscription billing, they are bringing out all their reporting and their Power BI reports of those minor updates. You don't have to do those minor updates anymore. Some people go, I just want to do the 2 updates in April and October. But just remember, if you don't want to do them, yes, you can skip them, but you could miss out on that new functionality. And let's go and have a look and see. So the final option I wanted to go through today was on the embedded Power BI reports. So they have been mentioning that it is coming. I know I've been mentioning it for a while now. It's going to be released in 25.1, one of those minor updates. If you are opting out, you won't see these until you actually go to the next release. But they have said starting from version 25.1, so we estimate that will be sometime in November, all these Power BI reports will be there. We got quite excited because we thought, wow, there's 14 of those, there's 12 sales, 13 purchasing. It's actually one dashboard, but with 14 pages. And pages are just the tabs at the bottom of a dashboard report. So if many of you are familiar with the Power BI dashboards, they have got little tabs at the bottom. Those are called pages. So they've just got 14 of those in the finance one, 12 in the sales. And as you can see, there's all the others. Now the Power BI one for the subscription billing, they did say 25.x. They have kind of mentioned 25.2, so we'll see. For the sustainability module, which was released back in April, and fixed assets, that's going to come out in April next year. And up to now, from the Power BI reports, that I think there's 3 of them at the moment. I think it's purchasing, sales, and possibly inventory that have been released. Oh no, CRM have been released. You haven't been able to change it. They are going to make that change in April next year, where those Power BI reports will have open source, which means you can actually change them and use them yourself. So you can create your own Power BI reports, put your own flavor on there, put your own logos onto there, and then embed them into Business Central. Now, for some of you, you might going, okay, well, how do I connect all that up to my system? Well, they have what they are releasing a Power BI connector. Within that connector, you can enter which environment, which company it will be, what dates you want to use as defaults. Normally, they kind of go 3 years, but you can extend that or shorten that if you wanted to. And again, which app you want to see. So it's going to make it really easy for you to install it, because I know at the moment I've got to remember which environment and I have to get the URL and all the rest of it. They've really streamlined that process, and hopefully it will make it really easy for you. Again, how do we find these Power BI reports? Yes, you can go and use the search icon at the top, the little magnifying glass, or you can click on all options. Now, when you click on all options, you get a list of all the reports, or sorry, click on all reports, you will get a list of all the reports available within Business Central. But again, in there, you will see the Power BI ones and you can search for them too. But the nice thing is you can actually take any one of those dashboards, bookmark it, and it will appear in your favorite section. So let me just quickly show you what I'm talking about. I haven't been able to do that at the moment. Let me just discard that email, come out of here. Let me just go back. So what will happen is you'll be able to book those individual Power BI dashboards, and they will appear up here in your favorites. So instead of actually coming down into here and going into your Power BI section, when I get down to here, instead of coming into here and look and being able to run the report from here, you can bookmark them, and they'll appear up here, and you can just run your Power BI report from there instead of coming down into this section here. So that's going to be a nice feature. And just to give you an idea of what some of those reports will look like, as I said, they haven't been released yet, but I just stole these next 3 slides from the video that I was watching, so they are a bit grainy, but I do apologize. But just to give you an idea, so on the finance one, this is what the balance sheet by month would look like. As you see, they can listed it. Nice thing is they're also enabling the drill down, which basically means you can now drill right down through to the actual transaction level. So that's going to be really powerful. I know some of you will enjoy that. Again, we got filters. So I think at the moment, the filters, when I've looked at them, they're not really that great. What they did show us, there's a lot of filters in there, which also will help you with your slicing and dicing of information. This is just a financial overview, just a quick look at what it may look like. Obviously, they're still tweaking these things and changing them, but it gives you a good idea of what's to come. Again, drill down in each one of these little KPIs. And this is the one that comes from the sales Power BI dashboard. So it's just giving you an overview of where you are with your sales, gross profit. And again, they've obviously developed these with some filters and with some drill downs. So I hope some of these new features I've shown you today will be useful to you. And if you need any further help or any assistance, please contact your account managers. We will show a list of all your account managers on the screen shortly, and they can organize for a consultant to assist you. So thank you for joining today.